The strange light in the woods. John was sitting alone on his porch at night watching the dark sky filled with stars as he did every evening after dinner when he finished his work and needed some peace. The forest near his small wooden house was quiet and calm, but that night something felt different. Something in the air was strange. The wind was colder and the trees were making soft sounds like they were whispering. He looked up and saw a bright light moving slowly across the sky. At first, he thought it was a plane, but it was too low and too quiet. It glowed blue and green and moved like it was alive. It made no sound at all. Suddenly, it stopped right above the forest and stayed there floating in one place. John stood up and walked down the porch steps. His heart was beating fast, but he felt pulled like something was calling him. He picked up his flashlight and started walking toward the trees. The light above the forest was still there, glowing softly through the branches. He followed the glow deeper and deeper into the woods. The light was leading him like it wanted to be found. After walking for 10 minutes, he saw something that made him stop. Something small was lying on the forest floor, surrounded by soft blue light. It was moving slowly, like it was breathing. It was not a normal animal, not a deer or a dog. It was something else, something strange, something not from this world. John stepped closer and saw a small childlike figure with smooth silver skin, big glowing eyes, and no hair. It looked scared and weak. It was not human, but it looked lost and alone. The child looked up at him with wide eyes and said one word in a soft voice that sounded like music. Please. John could not move for a second. He just stared. He was not dreaming. He was really seeing a lost alien child in the woods, and it was asking him for help. He looked around to see if anyone else was there, but the forest was silent and empty. No sign of anyone, no sign of a spaceship. Just broken branches and a small burn mark on the ground, like something had crashed there. He knelt down and reached out his hand. The child touched it, and he felt a warm shock run through his arm. Not pain, just a strange energy. The child smiled weakly and tried to stand, but its legs shook and it fell again. John gently picked it up. It was light and warm, like holding a bundle of light. He wrapped his jacket around the child and started walking back to his house. As he walked, the blue light in the sky started fading, and then it disappeared like it had never been there. The forest went dark again and quiet, but now John was carrying something that would change his life forever. He looked at the child in his arms and said, "I will help you. I promise." Back at home, he placed the child on the couch and gave it some water. The child drank slowly and looked at him with thankful eyes. John did not know what to do, but he knew he had to protect this child no matter what. He could not call anyone, not the police, not the army. They would take the child away. They would never understand. The child pointed to itself and said, "Luna," in a soft voice, and then pointed at John and said, "Dad." John's eyes widened. He had no idea what was happening, but something deep inside him told him this child needed him, and he could not walk away. Luna closed her eyes and fell asleep peacefully. Her body glowed faintly in the dark room like a small star resting. John sat beside her thinking about what he had just seen and done. His life had changed in just one night, but before he could relax, he heard something strange outside. A soft humming sound like a machine far away. He opened the door and looked out into the night, but there was nothing there. The air was still and cold. The sky was clear, but the sound was real and close. He turned back to check on Luna, but she was already awake, her eyes wide open, glowing white, and her small hand was pointing toward the door. She looked afraid and spoke again, this time her voice shaking. "They're coming." She wasn't from Earth. The sun was rising slowly over the hills as John looked at Luna, who was still asleep on the couch, her small silver hands folded over her chest and her glowing skin shining softly in the morning light. He had not slept at all. His mind was full of questions and fears, but he also felt something he had not felt in years. A strange warmth, like he had a reason to protect something again. He made some toast and coffee and waited for Luna to wake up. When she opened her eyes, she smiled and reached out for the toast. She ate slowly, as if she had never tasted food like this before. John sat quietly watching her, trying to understand how a being so strange could feel so familiar. After breakfast, Luna walked around the house, touching things with wonder. She stared at the old books on the shelf, the photo frames, the ticking clock on the wall. Everything was new to her. She touched the glass window and stared outside at the birds flying over the trees and whispered the word "sky" in a soft voice that made John feel something deep inside his chest. Over The next few days, Luna started learning quickly. She could speak more words every day and even tried to copy John when he cooked or cleaned. She laughed when the cat jumped on the table and cried when she heard loud thunder once. John found her floating above her bed while she slept, her body glowing like a lantern in the dark room one night as they sat by the fireplace. Luna took a pencil and drew something on a piece of paper. It was a picture of a planet with two suns shining over a purple sea and a tall figure standing beside a small child. John asked her what it was, and she said home with a sad smile. Her finger touched the taller figure, and she said Mama. Then she touched the small one and said Luna. Then she pointed to herself and lowered her head. John felt his heart break a little. He knew now for sure that Luna was not from Earth, not even from the same galaxy. Maybe he could not understand how or why she was here, but he knew she had lost everything and somehow ended up with him later. That night, John went back to the forest alone. He returned to the place where he first found Luna. He looked around and saw nothing but trees and silence, but something made him walk a little deeper, and there he found a small metallic object half buried under some leaves. It looked like a piece of a machine with strange writing carved into it. It pulsed with a faint blue light when he touched it, and a strange symbol appeared in the air above it, spinning slowly like a message meant only for someone who could understand. I've brought the piece home and showed it to Luna. Her eyes lit up and she touched it gently. When she did, the symbol changed and turned into a glowing spiral. Luna said something in a strange language and her eyes turned white for a moment. She looked at John and said, "Ship broken, no, go back." Her voice was sad but calm, and John understood she had crashed and could not return. He kept the broken part hidden in the basement and told Luna not to show her powers to anyone. She nodded and promised with her small hand over her heart, but John noticed that whenever she was scared or sad, her glow became stronger and her hands would shake like energy was trying to escape. Days turned into weeks and Luna became like a real child in the house. She laughed, she learned, and she loved to sit near the window and watch the stars. Every night she would whisper to the sky and say, "Mama, come," and John would sit beside her with his arm around her shoulder, not knowing what to say, but always there. One evening, something strange happened while John was reading the newspaper and Luna was drawing at the table. The lights flickered and a cold wind blew through the closed windows. Luna froze and looked up, her eyes wide and glowing. She whispered one word, not in English but full of fear. John grabbed her hand and asked what was wrong, but before she could answer, the front door creaked open slowly on its own. John ran to the door and looked outside, but no one was there, just the trees and the wind. But Luna stood behind him, her eyes locked on something far away in the sky, a small light blinking slowly like a star, but moving in a strange pattern. She pointed at it and said, "Watch." They watched. John closed the door and held her close, his mind racing with thoughts he had kept buried since the night she came. That night, Luna could not sleep. She stood by the window all night, whispering to the stars and watching the sky, while John sat nearby trying to stay awake. He felt it in his bones. Something was coming, and it was not just about Luna anymore. Something bigger was waiting just beyond the stars, the hidden past of Luna. Morning light touched the windows as Luna stood near the table, her eyes fixed on the drawing she had made. The paper was filled with strange symbols, stars, and shapes that John had never seen before, but one part of the drawing showed two bright suns over a purple sea and a tall shining tower that looked like it was made of crystal. Luna pointed to the tower and said, "Safe," then touched her chest and said, "Home." Then she drew a circle around the tower and added dark shapes around it like they were coming closer. Her hands trembled as she added a line of fire falling from the sky, and then a small ship flying away with only one passenger inside. John watched silently, trying to understand the story she was telling. It was not just a drawing, it was a memory, a part of her past that she could not explain in words. Her fingers stopped on the small figure inside the ship, and she whispered alone, her voice low and filled with pain. Later that day, John took Luna outside to the forest, hoping the fresh air would make her feel better. She walked slowly, picking up leaves and touching the bark of trees as if learning every detail of this new world. She turned to him and said, "Earth," soft, not loud, then looked up at the sky and whispered, "Mama." They walked deeper into the woods until Luna stopped near a small hill. Her eyes went blank for a second, and she walked straight to a large rock that had strange marks on it. John followed her, and when she touched the rock, it glowed softly for a moment, then stopped She stepped back and said, "Here, crash here." John looked around and saw a few broken tree branches and a burned patch of grass he had not noticed before, hidden by leaves and time. He knelt down and picked up a small piece of shiny black metal. It felt cold in his hand, but warm near Luna, like it reacted to her presence that night back home. Luna could not sleep. She sat near the fireplace, hugging a pillow and looking into the flames, her eyes glowing with thoughts far away. John sat beside her, waiting for her to speak, and finally she did. She said, "Mama told me run." She said, "Bad ones." "Come," she said, "go find safe place." Then she looked at John and said, "I run ship break. I fall, then you find me." She smiled a little and touched his hand, saying, "You safe." John felt a chill run through him. He was just a man living alone in a quiet town. And now he was part of something much bigger, something not from this world, but he could not leave her. He had seen the fear in her eyes and the sadness in her smile. He had made a promise to protect her, and he meant it with all his heart. In the middle of the night, Luna suddenly sat up straight, her eyes wide and glowing white. She started speaking in a language John could not understand. Her voice was soft but full of emotion, like she was speaking to someone far away. John rushed to her, sighed, and held her hand. She stopped speaking and looked at him, saying, "They dream me." "They call me." John asked, "Who are they?" But Luna shook her head and said, "Not know, but feel them watching, feel them near." The next morning, something new happened. Luna found an old radio in the garage and turned it on. It made static noise and strange beeping sounds. Then, for a few seconds, a voice came through, not human, not English. It was deep and broken, like an echo from space. Luna froze and said, "Name," they say. "Name." She touched her forehead and said, "My name, not Luna. Real name is Lyra." John repeated the name slowly. "Lyra," and she smiled, saying, "Mama call me Lyra. Luna is Earth name. You give me both nice. I like both." Later that day, John was checking the metal piece they found in the forest when Luna came close and placed her hand on it. Suddenly, the metal started glowing and floating in the air. Then it broke into pieces and formed a new shape, a small map with stars and moving lights. John stared at it as Luna pointed to one bright spot and said, "This was home," then pointed to another and said, "This is Earth," then pointed to a red flashing one and whispered, "Danger." John realized someone else was watching. Someone knew she was here. Someone was coming. That night, Luna had another dream, and this time she cried in her sleep, calling out to her mother. John woke her gently, and she hugged him tight, saying, "I miss her. I want to see her again. I want to know if she lived." John held her and said, "Maybe one day. Maybe she looking for you too. Maybe she already closed." Luna looked at him and nodded, her glowing eyes full of hope and fear mixed together. She walked to the window and looked up at the stars, whispering, "I remember more each night. I feel her. I feel her voice. I feel her close. She coming." John stood behind her, silent and alert, feeling the night around them change, like the air was heavier and the wind was carrying a message from far away. Something was coming, and they both knew it. The arrival of the mother. The night was colder than usual, and the stars above were brighter than ever, as if they were trying to say something. John stood on the porch with a warm blanket wrapped around his shoulders, while Luna sat quietly near the window, her glowing eyes staring into the sky, her voice silent for hours, her hands still holding the small drawing of the tower with two suns. She had not eaten dinner. She had not spoken a word since afternoon. Only once she whispered, "She is near," and then nothing more. John looked up and felt something in the wind. It was not normal. It was not just weather. It felt like the air was alive, like the ground was listening, like the trees were waiting for something. Suddenly, a flash of blue light cracked through the sky. It came without sound, but shook the air like thunder. A beam of pure energy touched the forest trees, bending and trembling as the light passed through them, then faded like it had never been there. Luna stood slowly, her body glowing brighter than before, her silver skin shining with soft waves of light. She turned to John and said, "She found me." John followed her as she walked into the forest, her step sure, her face calm, but her eyes full of emotion. They walked together through the trees, the wind pushing gently around them and the leaves whispering as if warning them or welcoming someone. As they reached the old hill where Luna had first touched the glowing rock, the ground began to hum, the air turned warm and thick with energy. And then it appeared. A tall figure made of light and silver stepped out from behind the trees, her body graceful and strong, her face beautiful and kind, her eyes glowing the same as Luna. She did not speak at first. She only looked at Luna with tears in her glowing eyes and opened her arms wide. Luna ran to her without a word, her small arms wrapping around her mother's waist as the two of them stood in silence. Holding each other like time had frozen, John stood still watching them, unsure of what to feel. Part of him was happy for Luna, but another part felt like something was slipping away, something he was not ready to lose after. And while the tall alien woman looked at John, her voice soft like wind through glass, she said, "Thank you." In clear English, then spoke again, "Your heart is strong, your soul is safe. My child lived because of you." John nodded, not sure what to say. He had 1,000 questions, but none came out. He looked at Luna, who was holding her mother's hand and smiling like he had never seen before, a smile full of peace and something more. They all walked back to the house together, the forest behind them silent once again, as if it had finished its part in the story. Inside the house, the mother looked at everything. With curious eyes, she touched the books, the wooden table, the family pictures, and said, "This place is strange, but full of love." John gave her water, and she took it carefully, her hands glowing. Even when still, Luna sat beside her and leaned her head on her mother's shoulder, both of them looking like pieces of a puzzle, now whole again. Then the mother spoke, her voice calm and gentle. "We thought she was lost. We searched every star, every system, but the trail went cold. We believed the worst until 2 nights ago, I felt her again. Her light reached me across the void." John asked her, "What will you do now?" And the mother looked at Luna, then at him, her expression full of conflict. She said, "I want her to return. She is not safe here. Earth is not her home, and soon others will know she is here. They will come not to love, but to take." Luna looked at John and then back at her mother and said, "I love Earth. I love Dad. I want both." The mother looked down, her hands shaking, her glow flickering as if her heart was unsure. She said, "It is not that simple. Our world is gone. We live hidden between stars and dangers. Follow us wherever we go. Your light makes you a target." Child, John spoke firmly, "Then let her stay here with me. We have kept her safe. We can protect her." The mother looked at him with eyes full of wonder and sadness. She said, "You do not understand what watches from the dark, but you have given her peace, and that I will not take." She stood and walked to the window, her eyes searching the sky, and then she said, "Give me 1 week here. Let me learn this place. Let me see how she lives. If I believe she is truly safe, then I will not take her away." Luna hugged her tightly and said, "Thank you, Mama." John nodded and said, "That is all I ask." Outside in the sky, a distant light moved slowly, blinking like a heartbeat, one that did not belong to stars. The mother saw it too, and her eyes narrowed. She whispered, "They are watching already. We must be ready." That night, Luna slept between the two of them, her small hands holding both of theirs, as if she knew only together could they face what was coming next. Luna must choose. Morning was quiet, but the silence felt heavy, like the world was holding its breath as the sun rose behind the trees, casting long shadows over the yard. Luna sat on the porch steps, holding a small leaf in her hand, turning it slowly between her fingers, while her mother stood behind her, watching the sky with eyes that never blinked. John was in the kitchen making breakfast, his hands moving out of habit, but his mind full of worry. He had barely slept. He kept thinking about what the alien mother had said the night before, her voice still echoing in his head. Her words sharp and real. "Earth is not safe. Others are coming. Her child is in danger." When they all sat down to eat, Luna barely touched her food. She looked at both of them with wide, quiet eyes, her glow soft and gentle, but her thoughts far away. Her mother spoke first, saying, "We cannot stay long. Others will follow my signal. We must decide soon where she belongs." John looked at Luna, then at her mother, and asked, "What kind of danger are we talking about? Who are these others? Why do they want her?" The mother closed her eyes and placed her hand over her chest, the glow from her body dimming for a moment. Then she spoke with a voice like broken light. "Our people were hunted long ago, not for war, but for power. Our children were born with energy inside them, energy that some believe can be used or stolen. Others do not want peace, they want control. When they find a Lyra, they will not ask questions, they will only take." Luna looked down at her hands as if she was seeing them for the first time. She said, "I do not want to be used. I do not want to hide. I just want to live and laugh and feel the wind. I want to be normal." John reached out and held her hand and said, "Here, you are loved here. You are free. No one owns you, not even the stars." Her mother looked away, her voice low but firm. "I kept her safe inside me. I gave her my light. I sent her away to save her, not to lose her." John stood slowly, his voice calm but full of heart. "I understand. She is your daughter, but I have been here through her tears, through her first words, through every moment of fear and joy. She is mine too." The room went quiet, and Luna looked at both of them, her eyes Bright like suns behind water, she stood and said, I love both. I do not want to choose, but if I must, I choose both. The mother walked outside, needing space, her steps slow, her light dim, her thoughts heavy. She stood near the edge of the woods, staring at the trees like they might speak. The truth, she was not angry, she was afraid of what might come, afraid that her child would stay and be taken or go and be hunted again. That night they sat together by the fire, Luna between them, drawing pictures in the air with her glowing finger stars, planets, and shapes they did not know. Her laugh soft and real, but then the lights flickered and the radio in the garage turned on by itself, the same voice from before crackling through the static. A deep, broken whisper speaking her name over and over. The mother jumped to her feet, her eyes flashing. We are out of time. They have locked onto her presence. They are close now. John ran to the basement and pulled out the old metal piece they found, the one Luna had activated before it was pulsing red, now glowing hot like it was warning them. Luna stepped forward and placed her hand on it again, and this time the air around them changed. Her body lit up like a beacon, her voice strong. I will not run again. A sudden sound shook the ground, a deep hum in the sky above, not thunder, not wind, something else, something heavy and alive. They rushed outside and saw it, a black shape moving through the clouds, silent and smooth. A ship not like the mother's, not like anything John had ever seen. It was watching, it was waiting. Luna looked at her mother and said, will you fight for me? Will you stand with me? Her mother looked down, then back at her and said, always. John grabbed his flashlight and held it like a weapon, even though it could not stop what was coming, but his heart was ready, his hands were steady, his choice was clear. Luna stood in the middle, her arms raised, her glow growing stronger, brighter, her voice calm and clear. This is my home. I choose here, I choose now. I will not be taken, I will not be broken. The ship above paused, its lights flickered, and then it vanished back into the clouds like smoke into night, but the message was clear. They knew where she was, and they would return. Inside the house, the fire burned low, and the three of them sat close together, no one speaking, but no one afraid. Luna smiled for the first time in days and whispered, I am not alone, I am not afraid anymore. The other ones are here. The sky turned red without warning, like fire behind the clouds, like something ancient had opened its eyes above the earth. John stood on the porch, holding Luna's hand, his heart beating louder than the wind. The air around them felt heavy, like it was filled with electricity and fear. Luna's mother stepped forward, her silver body glowing brighter than before. Her arms stretched out as if reaching into the sky, her eyes fixed on something far beyond what humans could see. Her voice was low and sharp. They are not far, they have found us. John looked at Luna, whose hands were trembling, her glow flickering like a candle in storm. She whispered, they know I chose to stay, they do not like it without another word. The sky broke open with a loud humming sound. A black ship appeared above the forest, moving without wings, without sound, its shape changing as it hovered over the trees. It was not like Luna's ship and not like anything John had ever seen before. It looked alive and angry. The ship released a pulse of light that moved like a wave through the forest. Trees shook and birds vanished into the sky. The wind died and time slowed for a moment. Everything became quiet, too quiet. Then it began. Creatures dropped from the ship, not many, just three, tall and dark with armor that shimmered like liquid shadow, their eyes glowing red, and their hands carrying weapons made of light and heat. They moved fast and without mercy. Luna's mother stepped between them and Luna, her body lighting up with power, her voice strong. Leave now or face what you cannot understand. The lead creature tilted its head and spoke in a broken voice, she is not yours, she belongs to the stars, she belongs to the Order. John picked up a wooden staff from the porch, his hands shaking but his feet steady. He stood beside Luna's mother and said, she belongs to no one, she chose to stay, and we protect our family here. The creature raised its weapon and fired a beam of light toward them, but Luna's mother blocked it with her hand. The blast turned into sparks before it reached her. She sent back a wave of energy that threw the creature into a tree. Luna stepped forward, her glow brighter than ever before, her eyes wide and filled with light, her voice louder than wind and fire. Stop this. I do not want to fight, but I will not go. The other two creatures rushed at them, weapons ready, but Luna raised her hand and the ground beneath them, cracked with light. Vines of glowing energy rose from the soil and wrapped around the invaders, pulling them to the ground, holding them with force they could not Escape. The sky above rumbled again, and the ship began to move as if it was afraid, as if it could feel her power growing, her voice calm and full of power. Leave, and never return, or I will burn your stars. The ship flashed once, then turned and vanished into the clouds as fast as it had come. The creatures on the ground faded into dust, their armor empty and cold. The wind returned, and the birds sang again as if nothing had happened, but everything had changed. Luna fell to her knees, her body glowing too bright, then dimming quickly. Her mother ran to her and held her tight, whispering old words in a soft alien tongue. John knelt beside them, his hands on Luna's shoulder, his voice shaking. You saved us, you saved yourself. Luna opened her eyes and smiled weakly, her voice just above a whisper. I felt the stars, I felt their fear. They will not return soon, but others might. The sun began to rise slowly behind the hills, casting golden light across the forest, the shadows fading, the danger gone. At least for now. They returned to the house, quiet and tired, but safe inside. John made warm tea while Luna rested in her mother's arms on the couch, her body calm, her face peaceful. For the first time in days, her mother looked at John and said, she is not a child anymore. She is a beacon. She has awakened something deep and powerful, something even our kind has never fully understood. John nodded slowly, still holding the cup in his hand, still trying to believe what he had seen and felt. He looked at Luna and said, no matter how powerful she becomes, she is still our Luna, and we will love her the same. That night, Luna sat by the fire with a blanket around her shoulders. She looked at the stars, not with fear, but with strength, her hands glowing softly, her voice steady. I am not afraid anymore. I am ready for what comes. Her mother placed a hand on her back and smiled. I will stay. I will fight. I will build a life with you here, if that is what you want. Luna turned to John and said, I want both of you always. John smiled and said, then that is what you will have, and nothing from the stars will take it away. Outside, the forest whispered with wind, but no danger inside. The house was quiet, filled with the warmth of new family and the strength of a child who had become more than anyone ever expected. She chose both of us. The morning sun poured through the windows, lighting every corner of the small wooden house, as if the sky itself wanted to bless what lived inside. Luna sat at the table, drawing stars and flowers in the same space as planets and ships, her small fingers moving slowly, her glow calm and steady like a heartbeat of peace. John was outside cutting wood, his hands working with quiet focus, his ears listening for laughter from inside, and his heart full of something he had not felt in years. Purpose, strength, family. Her mother stood near the garden, planting seeds from her own world, glowing green and blue and gold as they touched the soil. She smiled gently, watching the earth accept the alien seeds without fear, without question, like it understood the meaning of new beginnings. Life was different now, but in the best way. No longer hiding, no longer running. Luna had chosen this place. She had chosen both of them, and in return they had chosen her every day. With every breath in town, people noticed John had changed. They asked questions about the girl with strange eyes, the woman with silver skin. He only smiled and said they were family, and family is not something you explain, it is something you protect. At night, the stars seemed to move differently, as if they now knew Luna's name, as if the sky had opened a little wider to welcome her voice. Sometimes she stood outside and spoke to the stars, not in fear but in kindness, her voice soft like a song telling them she was home and she would not leave. But peace does not live forever without challenge. And one evening, as the three of them shared a quiet dinner, the table lit with candles, the air calm and sweet, Luna stopped mid-sentence, her eyes turning white, her body still, her voice speaking slowly. They are coming, but not like before. Her mother looked at her with a face full of memory and caution, asking, who is it this time? And Luna replied, not the hunters, not the order, something older, something deeper. John stood slowly, already knowing in his heart that quiet would not last forever. He had seen her grow into something powerful, into something bright, and now he would see her stand again, if needed. That night the sky turned silver instead of black. Clouds moved in patterns like symbols, and shapes danced above the house, not dangerous, not loud, just strange, like a dream becoming real. From the light stepped three beings, tall and calm, with no weapons, no armor, no voice, yet they spoke in the mind, in pictures and feelings. They did not want Luna, they did not want control, they only wanted to see her, the one who burned with choice, the one who belonged to two worlds but was tied to none. Luna stepped forward and looked at them, her light matching theirs. For the first time she asked, "What do you want from me?" And they answered in silence. "We want to learn, we want to listen, we want peace if you allow it." Their mother stood beside her, unsure but willing, and John stepped to her other side. Hands steady, eyes watching, heart open. Luna looked at both and said, "I am not afraid. I will show them what Earth means. I will teach them what love looks like." The being stayed only a few minutes, then vanished into the sky, without ships, without sound. But their message was clear. Luna had become something bigger than one girl. She was now a voice between stars, a light in the dark, a bridge no one could destroy. Weeks passed and seasons began to change. The seeds from Luna's mother grew into flowers no one on Earth had ever seen, glowing gently in the moonlight and humming softly when touched. People came from nearby towns to look at the beauty, but none dared disturb it. As if they knew it was sacred, Luna learned to control her powers more each day, floating only when she wanted to, glowing only when she chose, and smiling more than ever before. She built a garden of light in the backyard and painted symbols of peace on the fence with her own hands. John and her mother worked together now, fixing the house, growing food, reading books, teaching Luna both Earthways and Starways, their voices mixing like music in the rooms. One evening, as the stars blinked above the house, Luna stood alone on the hill near the crash site, her hands behind her back, her eyes full of fire and water, and she whispered, "I remember everything now. I remember the fear, the fall, the pain, the love, and I do not wish to forget any of it." John came up behind her and asked, "What do you see now?" And she answered, "I see hope, and I see others like me still hiding, still waiting. I want to find them, not to fight, not to flee, but to tell them they are not alone." Her mother placed a small device in her hand and said, "When the time comes, we will go together, not to escape, but to return stronger." John smiled and placed his hand on her shoulder and said, "And no matter where you go, this will always be your home, and we will always be your family." Luna looked at the stars once more and said softly, "More are coming. But this time they will find something waiting, not fear, not war, but light." And the sky listened in silence.